thanks to the support as a channel member, Robert Perring. Remember in the last episode where we had that problem where we had £100 million to spend and hadn't spent it yet? Well, don't worry, boys and girls. I've spent the £100 million. Hello and welcome to Club 6, Part 3 of Non-League to Legend. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, we have a couple of very important Premier League games because the season hasn't started so great. We're at home against my former club, Tottenham, and then away against Everton, who I hear are somewhat rivals of Liverpool. Since you were last with me, we did okay in everything apart from that 3-0 defeat away against Crystal Palace, even losing against Newcastle. Newcastle are a good side. It was a narrow defeat. Not a disaster. We've cruised through in Europe, as you would expect, and did thump Brighton in the Premier League. All looked good. And then we got absolutely battered by Crystal Palace, so much so that I went out and panic bought another defender, even though I didn't think we really needed one. This is what the Premier League looks like 4 games in. We do have up to 2 games in hand on some of these teams because of our European qualification nonsense. So it's not quite as bad as it looks, but we do need to win these next 2 games, and we've got some new faces to try and help us do that. One of them, pretty familiar, Till Owning, is on loan from Juventus until the end of the season. You might remember him from previously sitting on my bench for 2 years at Juventus. He's been brought in very much to sit on my bench for another year because he's just a handy utility player who can play across the midfield, up front. He's just a useful guy to have on the bench as one of those first couple of substitutes to make up the numbers. But this is the guy I really wanted. He kind of covers both of the positions we really needed to strengthen. We ended last episode saying we needed a right back and a central midfielder / defensive midfielder. And Jaeger is a defensive midfielder who can also play right back. We're probably going to play him there to allow Bellingham to push a little bit further forward. He's 21 years old. Already got 3 caps for Brazil, and he's a 6'3" physical monster. And we managed to pick him up for £40 million from Dortmund, and I'm very happy with that signing. He is going to be a very useful member of this squad. And then the panic bought defender, Takafumi Sugimoto. Good old-fashioned German name, as you can tell. He is a 23-year-old, 6'3" German, probably with, I guess there's some Japanese in him. There's, weirdly, hang about. So he's got 7 caps for Japan, but is still considered German and uncapped. Okay. Someone's going to need to explain to me in the comments how that works. So he came through the youth system at Freiburg. He's been in Germany all his career, so I understand why he's German. I don't understand how he's played 7 times for Japan and is still considered German. Has he been called up for the Japanese national team again? No, he's not in the Japanese national team. Is he in the German national team squad? No. There's just been an international break where he didn't get called up by anybody. Let's wait and see what happens there, I guess, so we can work out what nationality he actually... I guess he's German. He's played 7 games for Japan and then declared for Germany, I think. But regardless, he's the right-footed centre-back that we needed. We are a little bit overloaded with centre-backs now, but I think that's fine. I think we just needed to bring somebody in. He's another big boy at the back and, crucially, is a right-footer in a defence full of left-footers. What we don't still have is an out-and-out right-back. So although my intention is to play Jaeger at the base of the midfield and Bellingham further forward, if right-back becomes a problem, Jaeger's going to go in there and Bellingham will have to drop back to the base of the midfield again, and that opens the door for Owning to come into the team, which I'm sure he'll be delighted about. So we will wait and see how things develop there, but this is the team for the game against Tottenham, a must-win game against Tottenham. It's Blanco in goal, who he did manage to keep hold of despite the fact he wanted to leave. He still wants to leave, as does Aspas, and Sugimoto's upset that he's not in our Conference League squad. I wouldn't be that bothered. It was an error. I forgot to register him. I just misclicked. But, I mean, it just means he gets Thursdays off. I'd be delighted with it if I was him. But Blanco still wants to leave and is still a little bit grumpy about it, which might be a problem going forward. Hopefully it'll be fine. So Blanco in goal, back for Peralta, Corgi, Sugimoto on his debut, and Pereira. We've got Jaeger protecting that back four and Bellingham in that more advanced position alongside Ramon ahead of him. Kone on the left, Jallo on the right, and Aspas up front. I'm still not sold on Aspas as the starting striker, but he's earning so much money. I kind of feel like I have to give him time to play himself into form. We know from Barcelona that if we give him 5 or 6 games, he will start scoring goals, and then he'll score pretty consistently. He did it on a couple of different occasions when we were at Barcelona. We just know that's what we've got to do with him. But, oh, goodness me, is it frustrating in the meantime. Obviously, lots of familiar faces in the Tottenham team as well, including Braddock in midfield, who, of course, we had at Preston, didn't we? I'm sure we had Braddock at Preston, not Spurs. And I think he's actually been playing in Italy for the last few years, because it's a name I keep seeing come up, unless there's multiple Braddocks. But I imagine there's more of my boys in this Spurs setup as well. I haven't actually looked at the team to start things off. We're just concentrating on ourselves. I noticed Sen just there, and there's Diallo, who's got in behind with the looping header that hits the crossbar, and Aspas misses out on the follow-up from that, and Spurs have got the opportunity for a counter-attack. Let's have a look at this Spurs team. So Posselt was one of mine. Phil Brindley, of course, continuing to get better and better. He's quite good, isn't he? I mean, I guess he's the reason they play a back three, so that they can play him as a wing-back. Then it is Braddock in midfield, who, yeah, he was at Brescia. So Preston to Brescia, and now at Spurs. He would have been quite a good signing for us, actually. I didn't notice that he was available. And then my boys, Reyes and Sen, up front. Signed them both, never got to play them together because Reyes, of course, signed for Spurs just before I left to go to Barcelona. We did have plenty of time with Reyes at Preston, though. So Braddock and Reyes reuniting, having been together previously at Preston. And Sen, who was on the transfer list at Tottenham a couple of years ago, seems to have recovered from that little predicament and is still their starting striker, although not their captain anymore, interestingly. Brindley has picked up a knock for Spurs there, which is possibly a good thing, especially with the best player in the Premier League running at him down that right-hand side. Diallo really needs to just rip him apart while he's carrying that knock. And now Pereira on the right-hand side plays it into Jaeger. A first chance to have a little look at him, and there's Sugimoto. Back to Corgi, and now out to Peralta on this left-hand side. Crosses it in, Aspas is there, but Posselt's dealt with him comfortably. And then Reyes gets it clear, and Spurs have got the chance for a counter-attack here, but Pereira intercepts Brindley, who, as mentioned, carrying that knock. And now Diallo is running at him and absolutely skins him. Diallo playing it back to Bellingham, and now Aspas turns and scores, and that is a lovely goal. We took advantage of the Spurs' weakness. Phil Brindley, arguably their best player, but carrying a knock, and Diallo just left him for, I mean, he just ruined him. Look how far ahead of him he's got there. Tucks it back then to Bellingham, who's playing in that more advanced position today. Aspas takes it back to goal, turns nicely, tucks it into the bottom corner. It's Liverpool 1, Tottenham 0, just before half-time. And this could be, this will be just what the doctor ordered if we manage to pull off a victory here, because it has been a slightly alarming start to the season, but I'm hoping Jaeger and Sugimoto combined will just secure up this defence a little bit. Ramon plays it out to Diallo, who's still got all the time he needs on that right-hand side. Spurs are going to have to do something about this, because, in fact, they have done something about it. It looks like they've got a guy called Vallejo out there at left-back now, because Brindley was just really struggling with that injury. Hopefully, the guy they've put out there will struggle to handle Diallo just as much as an injured Brindley did. It looks like, is Brindley still on the pitch? It doesn't look like they've made a substitution. I'm a little bit confused about what's gone on here. But Peralta on the left-hand side, he's running into a little bit of trouble here. Turns and goes back, and he's done quite well not to give the ball away, I guess, but didn't make any progress up the pitch at all. And now Sugimoto to Pereira. Of course, the left footer playing right back. It's something we're going to have to deal with sooner rather than later. And Ramon is in behind, and it comes off Aspas, I think. Aspas is probably offside. He was literally stood on the goal line. I think it was probably going in from Ramon. But let's have a look to see what the ref has got to say about it. He's got his finger in his ear. How can Aspas not be offside? Yeah, of course he's offside. The question is, was it going in anyway? Has he just robbed us of a goal? Because it's hit so hard by Ramon. And I mean, it's literally hit Aspas and gone in. I think that's going in anyway. Aspas probably should have used his noodle and just got out of the way. He stood there on the line. Get out of the way of the football and let us have a goal, you silly bear. But alas, that's not what happened. And now Diallo looks like he's struggling a little bit after spending the entire match ruining Brindley, so we can bring on Borges for him, and then Kone's going to come off for Harvey Elliott, and Pereira is tiring as well, so we can bring on Elvis Gabriel to play right back, who is an England international, by the way, signed for mega money from Leeds a couple of seasons ago, 22 caps for England. I didn't really pay much attention to him when I arrived, but he is, he's another left footer, which is absurd. I don't know why all our defenders are left footed, but he can come on and play right back for us, because why not? We don't have anyone else who can play there. They're all left footed. I don't understand how we've got ourselves into this pickle where every defender at the club is left footed, and also why I didn't notice before I signed yet another left footer in Antunes. As much as he is a good player for any team at this level, he is not what we needed, another left-footed defender. But Ramon has done very well to win the ball back there as Posselt faffed around with it. But the goalkeeper does well to make the save, and it's still only 1-0. And Spurs, of course, with the attackers that they've got, Kulusevski now up there with Sen, Spurs are dangerous going forward. So we could really use a second goal or a final whistle. I'm not comfortable until that whistle has gone, especially when I saw how weak we were defensively in that recent game against Crystal Palace, although Sugimoto and Jaeger sat in front of the back four does seem to have calmed things down a little bit there. We've limited Spurs to just 2 shots on target in the entirety of the match so far, which is a massive improvement to what we had in that Palace game. Ramon's going to come off for a debut for Owning in that natural Mezzala position that he can play. And then I think we'll take off Jaeger as well, who is on a yellow card. And Filipov, I think, would rather be a playmaker in that role. He can play ball-winning midfielder. Can he actually tackle? No. Oh, no, he can't. That's fine. I don't see that will be a problem in that role. Right, we've got a corner. Let's see if Sugimoto at 6'3" is as effective as Antunes at 6'4". It's Borges with the in-swinger, and it's just headed clear comfortably. Aspas is there to collect, and Filipov from the edge of the area has a pop at it, and it's snuck in underneath the Tottenham goalkeeper, and that's 2-0, and that should be job done. I mean, it's a very unlikely source of a goal, but a goal is a goal. We'll take it all day long. 2-0 against Spurs. When you're struggling a little bit for form, there are a few things in life that can help you out as much as a game against Tottenham. Wonderful stuff. 2-0 now, and that puts us up to 10th with a game in hand and hovering just outside those European qualification spots. We've got to qualify for the Champions League this year. The ultimate goal is to obviously win the Premier League. We're probably not going to do that this year because it's a work in progress squad. But I think next season, when we're winning the Premier League, we also want to be able to have a pop at the Champions League and finish the series in style with a Premier League and Champions League double. So getting into that top 4 this year, imperative. And that's lovely from Aspas. And is he finally starting to find some form? 2 goals today, 4 for the season now. And that one was very well taken. And this is what we've seen with him in the past. It's taken, what is this, match 5? It's taken 5 games to get him to start looking like a proper Premier League striker. But now he looks like a proper Premier League striker. And if he's now going to start knocking him in regularly, I can stop criticising him as much as I have done so far. But that's very comfortable in the end. 3-0. Spurs will be as upset as we were about the Crystal Palace match, I imagine, because they've had a pretty strong start to the season. But that will do nicely for us. And now hopefully we take that form into this game against Everton and start to look like the Liverpool team I thought I was coming in to manage. Please and thank you. Of course, we are still very early days here at Liverpool, so I am still figuring out what my best team is. So we are changing some things around for this Everton game. Most notably, Jaeger is going to play right back. We kind of signed him with this in mind. It's why we got him and Owning, so we could play them like this. It does mean playing Bellingham a little bit deeper, but we'll try it. We'll see what this looks like. So Bellingham at the base of the midfield. Owning comes in ahead of him. Jaeger dropping to right back. We're also bringing Antunes back in for this game as well because he's enormous and I like him and I don't really have an excuse other than the fact I signed them both. So I want to get both him and Sugimoto some game time. And we're also going to try Borges up front. I know Aspas grabbed a couple of goals in that last game and we finally played him into some form. But he's still grumpy and I don't like players who are grumpy. So I want to see how this front 3 looks. We have tried the front 3 of Jallo up front with Borges on the right. We're going to try it this way around to see how this looks. I don't think sitting out for 1 game should break Aspas. If he's that delicate, then he really has no place in this squad. And I think it is going to be interesting to see this front three this way around. I think probably Diallo is the answer up top longer term, but I also figure a game against weaker opposition in the shape of Everton is one to experiment in. Are we allowed to refer to them as weaker opposition? I mean, we did just get thumped by Crystal Palace, so we could be setting ourselves up for problems in the local derby here, but Borges is fast, and this is his opportunity. Look how small he is compared to that Everton defender. He's 5'4". That defender must be like 6'5". The two of them next to each other, it is absurd. But, you know, he might be able to nip in between, or he might just get absolutely dominated physically, and that's what we're going to learn today. Corgi playing it forward to Owning, who must be very confused that I'm starting him in a football match. But this is, you know, this is proof of how good that Juventus team was. This Liverpool team won the Premier League and the Champions League just a year ago, and Owning can get into the team as a starter. He couldn't get into the Juventus team as a starter. Why I'm so frustrated that we never progressed in the Champions League, because I think we were good enough to. Talking of being good enough, we've just gone 1-0 up in the Merseyside derby against Everton. Good work from Borges. Plays it into Diallo, who gets to the byline. Really plays it across. I think he's looking for Borges, but it actually ends up with Ramon, who bursts forward from that Mazzala position to tuck it into the back of the net. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And that, as it stands, puts us up to 5th place. I was very confused for a second there, seeing Bourne above us in the league, and wondered if I'd accidentally loaded up the wrong database. But of course, that's Bournemouth, not Bourne, off of the Bourne series from a few years ago. Very confusing. Right, Jaeger plays it back to Bellingham, and now Corgi, what's he doing that far forward? Jaeger on the right-hand side. It's lovely having a right-footed right-back in the team, and he forces the corner. And of course, this is the opportunity for Antunes to get forward and cause havoc. It's going to be Borges to take. He's going to be aiming for that far post, I think. In fact, he's gone near post where Corgi is lurking, and probably should have been aiming for Antunes, who is the bigger threat. But, you know, we've got to mix things up a little bit, I guess. Bellingham's offered himself short for this one. Borges this time does aim for the far post. Once again, aiming at Corgi, though. Feels like a missed opportunity when Antunes is right there. But who am to get involved in how the set... I mean, I am the guy who designs the set pieces. I'm fairly confident we are aiming at Antunes. I'm just going to check. Or at least I've told them to aim at him. So on that far post corner... I guess maybe I have got them the wrong way around. I'll allow it. Try them that way around. I'm sure I had them the other way around previously. I do think players on that screen do move around randomly occasionally. Borges plays it back to Diallo, who, I mean, both of them look like they hesitated a little bit there. I don't think this is the right way around to play these two boys. I think we're going to swap them for the second half, because I think the little fast guy should be out wide, and Diallo's a 6-footer, I think. He's certainly bigger than Borges. Yeah, 6'1". I think we play them the other way around. I think that probably makes a lot more sense. I know there is the option to have them automatically swap, which I can never remember how you do. It's been in the game for years, and every time I show it, people are like, what? There it is, swap positions with. You can do that, and they'll just swap between themselves as the game goes on. In fact, you know what? We will leave them doing that, and we'll see what happens. The only problem is, when I inevitably bring Aspas on in 20 minutes, he'll end up playing on the right wing. Whichever one I bring him on for, I'll do it wrong, and he is going to spend a period of this second half playing on the right wing. And I know now there is nothing I can do to stop that from happening when it inevitably does happen. But what we should see now on the little tactics screen is the two of them swapping around, if that still works the way it did the last time I looked at it. But who knows? Things change in Football Manager. Right, corner comes in. It wasn't a corner, it was a cross. More of a pass even. Borges has done very well there. I tell you what, for someone who's 5'4", he's held off 3 Everton players there and come away with the ball. So he's got a lot of pace and some decent close control. I don't think his future is going to be as a striker. I think you need that little bit of extra physical presence to play up front. He's not looking like he's being completely dominated, and Borges playing it out to Kone has done very well again, dropping deep. And now Peralta getting himself into a crossing position. In fact, he's had a shot from range and he scores, and it's 2-0. And I mean, he confused me, never mind the Everton defenders. I think everyone in the stadium thought a cross was coming in, aiming for Jallo at that far post. And it was like the seas parted in front of him. There was just more and more space for him to run into. It got to the point where he was close enough to just, you know what? I'm going to have a shot. No one's closing me down. No one expected it. And it's 2-0. And for a moment, that did put, in fact, it does. There you go. Put us above Bournemouth into that Champions League qualification spot. And we have a game in hand on a lot of the teams around us as well. So after that slightly worrying performance against Crystal Palace, I no doubt keep referencing, is it fair to describe that as a poor start to the season, even though we've won all of our other games? Probably not. But we are back up where you would expect us to be. And that is a good thing. It's going to be a corner for Everton. Half an hour still to go in this game. Jallo has now switched into the centre forward role. So Borges is the one who's come back here to defend this corner, and Jallo stayed forward. And now Borges, little old Borges, just kicking his guy. Why not? So you can see, there you go. They have swapped automatically. And this is where I'm going to mess everything up, because I'm going to bring Aspas on any moment now, because Jallo is tiring, and I want Borges to be out on the right wing, and I'm going to mess it up. It's not going to work. Kone makes it 3-0. That feels like an opportunity to, first of all, turn off this swap player instruction, get that gone. Now they're not swapping anymore. This is the way they started. So I think if I move them like that and then bring Aspas on, I think that should leave Aspas as centre forward. I guarantee within the next 5 in-game minutes, we're going to see Aspas on the right wing, because Football Manager is mad like that. Right, we're going to take Owning off, bring Harvey Elliott on in midfield as well. And I think at 3-0, this is nice and comfortable, and good to see that the back four, back five, if you include the defensive midfielder, functions this way round as well. And it's going to be a similar thing to what we had at Barcelona and Juventus with Agostini. I'm now going to spend the first 6 months of this season deciding whether Jaeger's a right back or a defensive midfielder. The comment section are going to go mad at me, and then I'm going to end up choosing the one you lot think he should be the opposite of, because Agostini, I think the general consensus in the comments was he was a defensive midfielder. I eventually settled on him being a right back. So I suspect I'll go against you all again. Not deliberately. I record the videos quite far in advance. So more often than not, I've made the decision before you lot have told me what decision to make. Aspas is on the right wing. Sake. I mean, it took 20 seconds in match. He literally came on the right wing. I don't know what I don't know that there's a right way to do that. Borges is taking the corner. He's looking for that far post. Raymond is there, and it falls to Bellingham. And just keep an eye on them. Make sure they're the right way. And somebody please supervise this front three. Make them behave themselves. Raymond was getting in again there. Ramon and Raymond. I need to sell one of them. I can't have two players with such similar names. If they both had the same name, it would be different. I could find a way to differentiate them, but similar, not acceptable. Right, let's get Sugimoto on as well. And Pereira coming on at right back. And that is our final substitution. And you know what? I think this is justification for dropping a little bit of praise. We've played well today. Kone has pulled his groin, which is not ideal when we've used up all our substitutes. Hopefully that's not going to cause any kind of longer term problem. How long are you out of a pulled groin for? I'm not sure. We could probably go down to 10 men here. That should be an option, just to tell him to come and sit out the final 5 minutes of the match. Although he's got himself an assist by staying on the pitch, and clearly rotating Aspas out for the start of this match hasn't cost him too much, because he's come off the bench and he's scored again. Maybe he's a different man to the one we had at Barcelona. If he ends up Premier League top scorer, I'm going to have to eat my hat and apologise to him for all the Aspas slander. But we've come to wherever Everton play now. I think it's their new stadium. We've spanked them 4-0. We beat Tottenham comfortably as well. That has been we'll call that a very efficient episode. Right, the plan from here. We're not going to go too far on again. We're still getting used to this team, and I'm very keen to show you our first return to Preston since being back in England, especially because Preston have started the season incredibly well and are currently top of the Premier League. So a clash of old Kev versus new Kev. I don't think Stephen Ferguson's getting sacked anytime soon with the start of the season Preston have had, but let's try and ruin his day anyway tomorrow. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. and thank you very much for watching.